Hey everybody, Rosematter here. Welcome to part 5 of my Song of Saya Let's Play. In the last episode, things did not get much better for Yo as Fuminori accepted Saya's gift of Yo as basically like his pet, his thing to pleasure him essentially, which is just absolutely disgusting. But on a better note, Koji is still alive. He was found by Dr. Ryoko. They discovered Dr. Ogai's body, so he's been dead for some time. Ryoko warned Koji to, stay away from Fuminori and, don't get involved. But, of course, Koji, being the sweet guy he is, he wants to try and save Yo. So he let Fuminori know he's still alive and he knows about Saya. So, we'll see. We'll see how much longer Koji stays alive. If Fuminori's gonna track him down and kill him. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Let's just jump right back into it and let's see what happens next. I stare at the silent phone in my hand. There is anger, of course, but something cold and heavy holds my emotions in check. The sense of the danger. To be honest, I'm surprised at how calm I am. Master? Yo looks up at me apprehensively, her head between my thighs. She was attending to me throughout the call. Ugh. So wait, she can talk? I thought they said she was unable to communicate. The remaining fragments of her memory seem to have joined together as she has regained some degree of speech. Upon realizing this last night, Saya begins to teach her language once more. I assume she finds her pet's efforts amusing. Oh my god. Ugh. Don't be mad. Yo will try harder. The pleasure from her ministrations threatened to impede my thoughts, and besides, my arousal has already vanished. At first, I consider making her stop. When I gaze into her puppy dog eyes, however, I begin to think differently. Thanks to Saya, I have a family once again. For the first time, I am becoming aware of the responsibility that places on me. I am now the head of a new Sakisaka household, as well as its only male member. It is my duty to protect, comfort, and ensure the happiness of the women living under my roof. How fucked up is that? That, in a weird way, he's like, I have to make Yo happy, even though it's she's literally just there to please him. It's almost more fucked up that he legit believes that than if he just saw her as an object. With that in mind, I know I mustn't show fear or confusion. That would only cause them distress. Continue. Yes, Master. I entrust myself to Yo's eager touch, basking in the pleasure with one part of my mind, while contemplating our current predicament with the other. It's clear I've made a grave error when I failed to finish Koji off 2 days ago. Right now, I need to set my frustration and anger aside and deal with this problem logically. It's time to leave. I have no way of knowing when Koji escaped from the well, or how much he has learned, or how many people he has contact with since then. It's just as Ryoko said. Now he's gonna be in hiding and cause more damage. Now that it's impossible to know how far the problem has spread, merely disposing of Koji won't guarantee our safety. When the enemy has poisoned your water supply, you can't take the risk that even one drop might remain. Your only choice is to stop drinking the water. Fuminori, who are you talking to? Saya returns from the kitchen where she'd gone in search of a midnight snack. She's munching on her favorite, spare ribs. Purging myself of unease and impatience, I respond with a casual shrug. It looks like we have a little problem. That bastard Koji is still alive. Oh dear. By breaking the news suddenly without any trace of anxiety, I am able to avoid frightening Saya. Instead, she's merely surprised. I knew that remaining calm would work. Moreover, I'm currently being pleasured by Yo. It would be hard for anyone to get too serious under these circumstances. Saya, it might be best if we leave this house. Saya lowers her eyes and strokes her chin thoughtfully. It This was bound to happen sooner or later. Even without Koji, it's only a matter of time before someone reports the Suzumi family missing. Yeah, Saya nods. I can tell she's reluctant to leave, but at least there's no sadness in her expression. Everything will be fine. I will protect my life with Saya just as I have up until now. I have that power. Knowing that we've overcome one problem fills me with new confidence.
大丈夫。安心していいよ。さ、じゃあ急いで支度しよう。
Now then, we'd better get ready. Okay. We can travel light and take the Suzumi family car. I better withdraw everything that's left in my bank account and carry it as cash. I'll also need a weapon, something more reliable than a butcher's knife. Koji will most likely follow. He thinks that Yo can still be saved. However, I'm not abandoning this house just to run away. As long as Koji knows our location, we're stuck on the defensive. Leaving gives me the chance to regain the initiative and deal with him in a place of my choosing. While Koji was given a gun in the last episode, I had a feeling it might come into play. The next time we meet, I'll kill him with my own 2 hands. I'll make sure to wring every last drop of life out of his body. A shiver runs through me as I anticipate the battle ahead, and my bloodlust burns like orgasmic fire. I want Koji to take him out. When Ryoko looks up, the morning sun is already streaming in through the window. Tired from hours of poring over files, she removes her glasses and massages her aching eyes. Her dreams are always filled with horror, yet the night she just spent was more nightmarish than them all, and it's not over yet. She has only just set foot on the threshold. As expected, the files left by Ogai Masahiko were not the sort that Ryoko could simply pick up and read. Fortunately, Ogai had been too old-fashioned to put his trust in electronic media. If he encrypted his files on a computer, she'd have had to find a hacker to decipher them. In fact, he had not employed any kind of code in his writing. That would have been too time-consuming by hand. The method of obfuscation with these words. Obfuscation he did was quite simple. Of the files Ryoko pulled from his underground lab, the majority turned out to be notes and thesis from Ogai's days as a student. The important papers were the diaries and research notes that had been scattered throughout the piles of worthless scrap. At first, she was unable to understand the documents that she had found. Each sheet was covered with text on one side and blank on the other. Each line was completely unrelated to the next, making it impossible to glean any meaning from the whole. The trick revealed itself, however, when she was sorting the pages that made no sense. She found that each line continued on the same line of a different page. In Ogai's diary, for example, the first day began on the first line, then continued not with the next line, but with the first line on the next page. Similarly, the second day was the second line, the third day was the third line, and so on and so forth. After filling all the lines on one set of pages, Ogai had torn them out and scattered them among his other files. There was no regularity to how the pages were numbered, of course. Unable to locate any sort of key or legend, Ryoko had no choice but to figure out the page order manually. Despite knowing the task would be exhausting, Ryoko set to it valiantly. After separating all the loose-leaf sheets from the jumbled files, she began the painstaking process of linking pages together according to the contents of their first line. She found Ogai dismantled and scattered his diary each time he completed a number of days equal to the lines on one page, and had done the same with his research notes every 30 pages or so. The diary was much easier to restore. Because the entries varied in length, later pages had a larger number of blank lines. The page with only one line, therefore, was the last page of the diary, and those with the most blank spaces could be considered closer to the end. Ryoko's perseverance had paid off, for she had already succeeded in restoring several volumes of Okai's diary. As she read them, she feels despair draining her spirit, as it has so many times before. This cursed feeling of powerlessness that comes with knowing hidden truths. Those who have tasted it once shall be beaten down by it again and again until the day they die. All secrets are connected, after all. Once you have glimpsed even the tiniest fraction of the world's true face, you have no choice but to watch in horror as the veil rolls itself back inch by inch. All that remains is to wait for the day when insanity will crush your reason under its ever-mounting weight. I have succeeded in communicating with the organism. It shows enormous curiosity, and its intelligence is beyond doubt. See research notes for confirmed vocal patterns and body language. Its appetite for knowledge is insatiable, and its learning speed is off the charts. However, it exhibits absolutely no desire to be recognized as an individual. Its ego appears to be quite weak, suggesting a psyche wholly unlike that of a human. The speed of the organism's linguistic development is astounding. When I laughed at its mispronunciations, it immediately picked up the concept of puns. Ever since, it has been employing its entire vocabulary in an attempt to find puns that will make me laugh. Perhaps in a few days' time, it will have learned enough language for us to communicate freely. The organism's command of spoken language is now sufficient to facilitate higher-level discourse, but although it has regaled me with questions all day, it remains unable to answer any of mine. Its reply suggests it has gained awareness only after materializing in this universe. It has no knowledge of where it came from. While I am disappointed, the fact it has reached this level of intelligence in only 1 week after starting to think tells me there is no end to what I can learn from it. Hypothesis. It is not a naturally occurring organism, but was created by an even more sophisticated sentient life form. This would explain why it has no ego yet possesses such a hunger for knowledge. It might be some sort of reconnaissance drone that was sent here from another world. So she's an alien. Oh my goodness. Ryoko smiles humorously for the upteenth time since she started reading. How wonderful it would be if she could laugh the diary off as the delusions of a madman or the work of science fiction author. Alas, she knows far too much. When she thinks back to the many horrors that Ogai brought into her life, the words before her take on chilling credibility. I have confirmed the organism's brain power far surpasses any human's. This morning I taught it about prime numbers. After I explained the Lucas-Lemmer test for Mersenne primes, it immediately began to list examples that had calculated in its head. I was only able to confirm by memory up to number 10, M89, but it continued to list further examples without any trouble. I left it to its calculations, and when I returned a few hours later, I discovered it had written down more than 70 of them. My word, I am having a hard time with words today. More so than usual. Computers all over the world are currently working to calculate Mersenne primes, but the last one I remember being found was the 39th back in 2001. When I entered several of the results into my laptop and ran the Lucas-Lemmer test on them, I found that every one was correct. The same is no doubt true of the rest. After all, the organism has never shown the pathological need for respect that would lead to it to lie about its accomplishments. I see no reason to doubt its veracity. If I could reveal to the world an expedient method for discovering Mersenne primes, the prize money would make me a billionaire. Of course, my current research is worth far more than any sum of money. I must keep it secret. The organism's computational speed exceeds that of even the most powerful supercomputers. I can only conclude its cognitive facilities are beyond anything humanity can imagine. At the organism's request, we have begun a new field of study. Despite its immeasurable aptitude for mathematics, it now desires to concentrate on sociology and the natural sciences. Perhaps our math problems are simply too elementary for it. It has shown especially keen interest in the means by which organisms reproduce and multiply. As it possesses nothing that could be called emotion, I hesitate to use this description, but when it learned about DNA, it seemed somehow excited. In fact, the organism itself seemed surprised by its reaction. When asked about the nature of the impulse, the organism decided to label it instinct. If this description is indeed accurate, then this is an extremely significant development. She was talking before about what she is, and she talked about being like a dandelion adrift in a desert where she just wants to basically spread her seed, as it were, and like multiply, and maybe that's why she's so interested in DNA. It would mean that there is a deeper level to its psyche than just the knowledge it has acquired since coming to this world. If I can use this discovery to trace its roots, I might be able to learn what it truly is. Note, candidates for the plane and world of the organism's origin are discussed in my writing on the Silver Key, filed separately. I spent the whole day carrying books into its room. Apparently, the organism is no longer satisfied by the knowledge I am able to impart. It should come as no surprise considering its linguistic prowess, but the speed at which it consumes text is astounding. The diary continues for some time, chronicling the intimate relationship between Ogai and the organism. In the back of her mind, Ryoko imagines the old doctor climbing down the well in the middle of the night to hold congress with some inhuman creature in that bizarre laboratory. The image is disturbingly similar to the nightmares that have shattered the silence of many nights with her screams. What follows, however, makes even her worst nightmares pale in comparison. The organism has made a very strange request. This is the first time it has asked for anything other than food and reading materials. I can hardly believe it, but it wants to consume the sperm of living creatures. This is separate from its desire for food. Once again, it is describing this impulse as instinctive. And she talked it before, didn't she say to Fuminori, where she gives her the thing that she wants every night. And that creeps me out just saying it, but why? Why? Now it has declared itself as a life form that requires the seed of males. It has begun to identify itself as female. After today, I suppose I shall have to start calling the organism a she. Is the personality that she has begun to exhibit really just an imitation created for her amusement? Ever since she started to immerse herself in our literature, she has been acting astonishingly human. She identifies herself as human and already possesses an enormous store of cultural knowledge. Is she trying to create a human identity for herself based on these? So, talking about, like, human is when she, you know, did that thing to Yo, there was definitely some deep-seated, there was some jealousy there. And when she turned Yo into what she was and then presented her to Fuminori and then, you know, like, she took some sort of sick pleasure in her, basically, her suffering. So is that like some sort of, is that the story, is that the author of this, is that some sort of, what's the word I'm thinking of? Commentary about, like, it's human nature to have these deep-seated, just, like, these dark emotions and this, these sadistic... I don't even know how to describe it. Like, is that human nature, secretly, and then we just kind of keep that under wraps, but deep down, are we just sadistic, dark creatures with base instincts, like she was showing, you know, and then Fuminori with himself just giving into these deep, dark instincts of just basically seeing Yo as, like, just something to pleasure him, you know? I got off on a little bit of a tangent there, I apologize, but this whole thing about introducing human literature, and then all of a sudden she started to show these very dark human emotions, you know? I have seen her laugh, grow angry, and today she cried. Is she just copying our emotional displays? If not, then she's already... Is the soul something that any intelligent life form can acquire? I feel I am witnessing something more mysterious than the genesis of life itself. Today is her birthday. Although it is a year late, I want to give her a special gift. Saya was the name of my mother's cat. In childhood, she was my sole friend and my beloved. I decided long ago if I were ever blessed with children, I would give this name to my daughter. Happy birthday, Saya. Let this be the name of your soul. You have earned it. It'd be funny if the cat's name was like Mittens or something. The Song of Mittens. The ability that Saya has discovered in herself is showing more extraordinary results each day. I have no doubt she is a kind of artist. What exactly is it that she created in her body from the rat semen I gave her? Ew. At this point, I can only surmise it is a type of retrovirus. A reverse transcriptase, a lot of big words here, enzyme that creates exactly what she desires. The rats that have been transformed by her art are so very beautiful now. The many enzymes secreted by her body and the various appendages she uses are discussed in detail in my biological observations, filed separately. Here, I will say this. By witnessing Saya perform her operations on several rats, I have gained much confidence in my theory her body is designed specifically to manipulate the biology of other organisms, so that's why she wants sperm. Ryoko looks grimly at the still unsorted mountain of research notes. When she finally manages to separate those pages, she will probably find many other files mentioned in the diary. Ogai's biological observations. At the very least, she wants to look through those before facing the thing called Saya. Under no circumstances does she want to go into battle unprepared. She looks at her watch and sees it's already 7 in the morning. Assuming Tono Koji made no stops, he should be arriving in Tokyo about now. Uh-oh. Now that it's too late, she wishes she'd stopped that stubborn fool from leaving, even if she'd had to shoot him in the leg to do it. I think that might have been a good idea, because I think he's going to get himself killed right now. Oh my god, he's going right there. I was hoping he'd have at least a little bit more time. I hope they've left already. Koji pulls up 2 blocks away from the Sakisaka house and stares at the silent building. In the bright light of morning, the house seems shrouded in a dark miasma, like a black hole torn out of the landscape. Is it just a figment of Koji's imagination? Every window is closed, offering no glimpse of the inside. Koji has no way of knowing whether Fuminori is home. A pedestrian walks his dog down the street, glancing back at Koji through the windshield after he passes by. Koji isn't surprised by the attention. He hasn't bathed or changed clothes since spending the night buried in mud, so he must look like a vagrant even inside his car. When he looks into the rearview mirror, he sees the haggard visage of a man with one foot in the grave staring back at him. It's hard to believe the tired, unshaven face is really his. Dude, at least go home and take a nap. Like, you're going in at like 20%. You want to be at 100. If he stays here for too long, someone might report him to the police. He'd better pull himself together and get moving. He drives slowly up to the front of Fuminori's house, quickly checks to make sure no one is around, and gets out of the car. God damn it. I said this to everyone. I said this to Yo. I said this to Omi. I'm saying it to Koji. People who go into that house do not come out. Anyone who might be in the house probably heard the sound of the engine, but there's no point in worrying about that now. Please, please let them be gone already. Koji walks swiftly through the gate and yard to the front door. He puts his hand on the doorknob, forgoing the bell. The time for such pleasantries has passed. The door is unlocked and the knob turns easily in his hand. He puts his ear to the door and listens for any sign of life. He's acting like a thief, he realizes with some shame, but that's the least of his worries now. No sound from within. After checking the street again to make sure no one is looking, he quickly opens the door and disappears inside. Oh boy. This feels like deja vu. Just 2 other people have done this and it has not turned out well for them. An indescribable stink immediately assaults his nostrils. He is already prepared for anything, however, so rather than discourage him, the stench only sharpens his caution to a razor's edge. He has crossed this threshold many times in the past, and his memories of days spent here are still bright. So why? Why does he feel the same ominous, blood-chilling aura that permeated Ogai's home and cabin? Anger and sorrow seize Koji's heart, as though a dear friend's grave has been defiled. Koji doesn't remove his shoes before entering. He knows why he's here, and it's not to be polite. Every storm shutter is closed, filling the house with gloom, and he can see nothing but pitch-black darkness through the open doors in the hallway. He should have brought his flashlight from the car, he thinks ruefully, then remembers he dropped the light when Fuminori attacked him. It's still lying in the backyard of the cabin in Tochigi. The house might be empty, then again it might not. Each particle of the air seems charged with silent menace. Is his enemy lurking somewhere in the darkness? It's not hard to imagine Fuminori waiting for a chance to take him by surprise and finish what the well failed to. Koji walks down the first-floor hallway, then climbs the stairs and checks the second floor. He moves slowly and carefully, keeping his senses sharp, but feels nothing watching him from the shadows. After completing his round safely, he's convinced the house is empty. He suddenly realizes his right hand is touching the cold steel of the gun in his pocket. Did he intend to draw the weapon upon encountering Fuminori? Well, if he's smart, he would. Now that Koji thinks about it, his own actions seem mysterious to him. What is he planning to do when he meets Fuminori? Will he lay into him with curses and epithets? Will he force him to turn himself in? Or will he? Koji shakes his head. This isn't the time for such hopeless questions. If he keeps thinking, he'll stop moving. If he stops moving, fear will paralyze him forever. His only choice is to keep marching on. He has to close the distance to his prey. In any case, Fuminori isn't home. What form their reunion takes will probably be decided at the moment of their meeting. All Koji has to do is not hesitate when the time comes. Still, why does the whole house smell like stagnant water? It's been 3 months since Fuminori distanced himself from his friends. Just what kind of life has he been leading all this time? So, I'm sure Omi's body is well past, like, eaten and traces of him, but her shoes are probably still in the hallway. I wonder if he's going to see them and he's finally going to come to terms with, he's going to know that Omi's probably dead and Fuminori had something to do with it. Koji enters the living room and feels along the wall for the light switch. The moment he flips it on, the answer to all his questions is revealed. What? How far has Fuminori gone? Koji realizes this is the first time he's encountered Fuminori's insanity in visible form. From the dust piled in the corners of the room, it is clear the paint was not applied recently. How many nights has Fuminori spent surrounded by this maddening array of color? Why, if such obvious signs were available? Why didn't Koji realize something was wrong before it got this bad? Was he deaf to the dying screams of Fuminori's sanity? Was their friendship really so worthless? As he stands petrified in the unfamiliar living room, Koji directs his anger entirely at himself. If he could, he would like nothing more than to apologize to Fuminori for failing to help him through his suffering. Koji feels he might have been able to save his friend. Perhaps he's arrogant to think so, but if so, it is arrogance born of kindness. Oh no, the kitchen! He's gonna find the bones, I'm sure. Koji passes through the living room and opens the sliding door that leads to the kitchen. When he enters, he finds the most disturbing of the house's many stenches as strongest here. Blood. The room is redolent with the smell of countless layers of blood grown stale over time. He peers into the well-used sink. Around the rim, he sees faint, brownish-red blotches that water alone couldn't rinse off. Even more obvious are the stains on the dish rag. Such stains are proof the rag had been used and reused countless times. But what could have been used on it to make that sickening burgundy color? Koji stares at the refrigerator next to the counter as though it were a monster waiting to swallow him whole. Oh god. I'm afraid like Omi's head is going to be in there or something. He stands motionless until he's able to work up the courage simply to touch it. I bet it is. Then he steels himself, grabs the thick handle, and opens the door. First he'll check the freezer, then the refrigerator. The freezer is packed with frozen meat of varying shapes and sizes. As each piece is wrapped tightly in frosted over plastic, he can't tell what kind of meat it is. The meat in the refrigerator, however, has already been thawed for consumption. Oh boy. For a while, he can only stare in disbelief at the 5 fingers beckoning to him from the back of the compartment. They are the long, slender fingers of a woman, their bluish tinge giving them the appearance of waxworks. Koji is unable to remember what Omi's hands looked like, even though he had kissed her fingers countless times. When he finished crying after his conversation with Fuminori, Koji promised himself he would not cry again, and in fact, he does not. He regrets his decision, however. He indulged himself too early. He should have saved his soothing tears for this moment, for now he knows that truly nothing is sacred. At last, his doubts about Fuminori have been utterly obliterated. At least it's not her head. Koji pulls Ogai's revolver out of his pockets and wraps his hands around its grip like he would a charm. Its definite presence, its promise of merciful annihilation, is the only thing keeping his sanity intact. He will surely use it to kill Sakisaka Fuminori. Not for revenge, not for justice, but to make this world once more a place governed by reason. For that purpose alone, he must eliminate the anomaly. He breathes deep, exhales, and lifts his hand before his face and stares at his spread fingers. Alright, he's not shaking. He is prepared to face his new objectives. And now we got Koji and Fuminori, both of them, basically don't see the other as human and will have no hesitation to take the other out. At least I say this, but Koji still has some humanity in him, so he might, like, I'm afraid he's gonna panic or freeze at, you know, the moments where he has to do it if they meet up again, and then Fuminori's gonna kill him. Koji sticks the revolver back into his pocket and pulls out his phone. Oh shit! Okay, let's save. Alright, I want to do the thing that I wanted to, like, I want him to listen to Ryoko, so let's call Ryoko. I wonder how much big of a, like, I wonder if this is going to stop the game quickly, or if this is going to be something that is going to go on for a while before the decision is made. Either way, I'll keep that saved just in case so I can see the other option. The ringing of her cell phone interrupts Ryoko's labors. When she sees the caller as Tono Koji, she unwittingly breathes a sigh of relief. This is Tombo. What is it? I've searched Fuminori's house. Even over the phone, Ryoko can hear the change in Koji's tone. His is the dull, flat voice of someone who has had all the energy beaten out of him. Fuminori has murdered people. He's killed too many people to count, and he's eating them. His first steps into Ryoko's world have already brought him face to face with something particularly gruesome. I wonder if she's going to say, I told you not to get yourself involved. In consideration of his probable state of mind, she decides to say nothing. Omi is dead. Koji continues. Tsukuba too, probably. Doctor, I was wrong.
君は生きているうちにこの電話をかけてきたんだから、まだ致命的な間違いを犯したわけじゃない。
The fact you're still alive to make this call means you haven't made a fatal mistake yet, Ryoko says, praising Koji in her own way. Whether he is comforted or not is up to him.
ともかく、もう今度こそ間違うな。私が戻るまで動くんじゃない。
Anyway, don't screw up this time. Do nothing until I return.
君が相手にしているやつは、一筋縄じゃいかない相手だ。
What we're dealing with here isn't going down easy. With her understanding of Saya deepening by the hour, Ryoko is able to make this declaration with new confidence.
Fuminori はもう俺が生きてることを知ってます。誰に助けられたかまでは教えてませんが、ともかく奴は警戒してるはずです。
Fuminori already knows I'm alive. I didn't tell him who rescued me, but he's definitely on guard.
そうか。
I see. Koji's actions were rash, but there's no point regretting them now. The more proactive approach would be to use the pressure he's placed on Fuminori. Ryoko's involvement is still a secret. That makes her a wild card with a shotgun. Depending on how she plays it, this advantage could be decisive.
先生の方は何か手がかりをつかめましたか?
Have you found anything?
まだ十分な量とは言えない。
Not enough yet, Ryoko answers, glancing sidelong at the loose-leaf pages still scattered across the table.
そうだな。夜までには目処をつけて、夜半には東京に戻ろう。
Let's see. I'll wrap this up by evening and return to Tokyo around midnight.
それまで君は余計なことをせず、おとなしくしている。
You stay out of trouble until then, got it?
はい。
Yes. The lack of emotion in Koji's voice is actually reassuring to Ryoko. He's a machine now, able to do whatever it takes to accomplish a single goal, the extermination of Sakisaka Fuminori. He is even willing to accept help from Ryoko, whose principles hardly mesh with his. A praiseworthy change indeed. After Ryoko hangs up, she gloomily counts the stacks of loose leaf that still need to be restored. There's no time left. She'll only be able to get the general picture. If she has to go into battle with only fragmentary knowledge, then there's one thing she must absolutely decipher: Ogai's biological reports, which should contain information on the strengths and weaknesses of the organism called Saya. All she can do now is pray for luck as she dives back into the mountains of paper. Oh, hopefully Fuminori isn't going to the cabin and, catch her by surprise. But I'm assuming he's not going to go there because he wants to hide and he knows that Koji knows where the cabin is. Today was the first time I've driven since my accident last summer. The proposition was always too dangerous to consider given my ability to recognize roads and cars. Things have changed, however, in the 3 months I've had to adapt to my condition. I know what cars and pedestrians look like now, and even though I can't exactly see colors, I've learned to decipher lights and turn signals. I still can't read street signs, of course. Nevertheless, I managed to make it safely to our destination with Saya and Yo in the back seat. It was Saya who came up with the idea for our new hideout, an abandoned building she discovered while living with Dr. Ogai. In these hilly, suburban residential areas, it's not hard to find thick patches of undeveloped forest just off the beaten path. Saya's old playground is located in one such secluded area unaffected by the flow of everyday life. It used to be a privately operated sanatorium hidden among the silent trees. After the owners went bankrupt, it remained unsold and was eventually forgotten. After I left Saya and Yo at the hideout, I returned to town to make some preparations. Now I'm finally back at our new refuge. I liked this ruin from the moment I saw it. Mountains of construction materials and garbage litter the front yard, forming a serviceable barricade. This place looks even less likely to receive unwanted attention than our house. Since my brain sees humans as revolting monsters, places they've been tend to stink or seem covered in filthy slime. Ruins like these long empty of life are the places I find the most restful.
Tadaima.
I'm back. I called to let them know I'm not a stranger. Then I go down to the basement where they're hiding.
おかえりなさい。車平気だった?
Welcome back. Were you okay with the car?
もう全然問題ない。一方通行の標識もどういうのか分かったし、スピードさえ出さなければどこを走っても大丈夫だよ。
It was no problem at
で
all.
そっちは
I figured out how to tell which roads are one way. As long as I keep my speed down, there's nothing to worry about. So how are things here?
一通り調べたけど、やっぱりあれからずっと人が来た様子はないみたい。ここは安全だよ。
I took a look around. As I thought, there's no sign anyone's been here since I found this place. It's safe.
そうかならいいんだけど
I see. Let's hope it stays that way. I'm a little worried this abandoned building could become a hangout for biker gangs or homeless people.
多分、表に積み上げてあるゴミのせい。あれ、普通の人間にはちょっと耐えられないんじゃないかな。
It's probably because of all the trash piled out front. Most people won't get anywhere near that, don't you think?
ふん
I guess. It doesn't bother me at all. I rather like it, in fact. But of course, normal people would feel differently.
で、ふみのりの買い物はいいの見つかった？
So how was your shopping? Did you find anything good?
あもちろん
I sure did. I proudly unwrapped the weapon I just bought from a camping goods store. A 1-meter long wood axe, the biggest and sturdiest I can find. This thing is like something out of like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or something.
刃渡り15センチ以上のナイフ
It's
は
like got
銃
eyes
刀
on
法
it
違
and
反だなん
shit.
て張り紙してあるのにその隣でこんなもの売ってるんだよお笑いだよね
I like how this was right next to a sign saying that long knives are illegal. Seems like you could do way more damage with one of these. I grip the axe with both hands, testing its dependable weight, then swing it like a baseball bat. The deadly steel blade sweeps through the air right where a person's neck would be. Yo, who's sprawled out on the floor, flinches at the sound and curls herself into a ball.
切れ味とかどう？
Damn!
用で試してみたら？
How sharp is it? Want to test it on Yo?
いやそれはちょっと
I don't think that's a good idea. I definitely wasn't expecting Saya to suggest anything so brutal. I'm waiting for Saya to kill Yo, like just... She's kind of holding in her jealousy a little bit, and she wants Yo to suffer by keeping her around alive, but I wonder if one point she's just gonna lose it on Yo and just use the axe and kill her.
心配いらないよ。今のような体だったら、刃物とかの傷は割と簡単に治っちゃうから。
Well, never mind about that. Well, that's horrible, even if, like... So, if Saya wanted to, she could just hack away at Yo and then just basically have her kind of recover and... Like, Jesus, like, just make her suffer even more.
いやそれにしたって痛いだろ
But I'm sure it'll hurt.
そっか。うん、そうだね。
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. It must have slipped her mind completely. I doubt that. She smiles at the oblivious Yo as if to hide her embarrassment, then says...
でもさ、痛くされた時のようの声って、それはそれで可愛いよね。
But her screams are pretty adorable, don't you think?
いややっぱり人間に斧で切りかかるってのは
So
気が引けるよ
So he sees her as human. Oh, God, so it's like there's still a little something there. There's a little bit of guilt. There's a little bit of, like, not wanting to make her suffer. But at the same time, if you don't want her to suffer, put her out of her misery. I just wouldn't feel right using the axe on a human.
そうなの？じゃあ、コウジさんは？
Really? Then what about Koji?
そりゃだって
That's easy, because, like, Yo hasn't done anything to him, so I think I guess he can still compartmentalize, whereas, like, Yo is like she's innocent, even though he's still making her suffer, but Koji is an enemy. It should be obvious, but I guess Saya doesn't understand.
やつは僕には人間に見えないから切ろうが潰そうが平気な
Oh,
も
yeah.
んさ
That's right, and literally, I forgot about that. Literally the fact that Koji doesn't look human to him where Yo does. I don't see him as human. I'll have no trouble cutting him to pieces.
そんなに違うんだ。
That really makes a difference?
そうさ人間には良心があるからね
Yeah, humans have a conscience, you see. The irony being that Koji is more human than Yo is right now.
どんなに憎い人間だろうと人を殺すと思うとブレーキがかかるもんだ
Oh, I see.
そこが僕の称賛でもある
I see. He's saying Koji has a conscience, so it's like I said, he's probably going to hesitate. And then Fuminori is going to take him out. Humans have a conscience, you see. No matter how much you hate someone, you can't help but think twice about killing them. And that's how I'll win.
本当に？
Really? Saya seems awfully subdued. I guess she's concerned about what'll happen when I have it out with Koji.
体格じゃあいつが上だし普通に喧嘩したんじゃ勝ち目は薄いかもしれないけどね
He's bigger and stronger, so I might not have much chance against him in a straight-up fight.
でも僕にとっての化け物退治があいつにとっては人殺しなんだ。こいつは大きいよ。あいつはきっと最後の瞬間で隙を見せる。
But what's just slaying a monster to me is murder to him. This is big. He'll definitely hesitate when it counts.
なんだか不安なんだよね。そういう心理戦っていうの確実じゃないっていうか。
I'm a little worried, Saya says softly, staring at the ground with unusual gravity. You can never be sure how someone will react. It's dangerous to rely on that. She raises her head and looks straight at me.
ねえ、やっぱり私が買った方が良くない？
Don't you think it would be better if I hunt him? I appreciate Saya's consideration. Even though it could be interpreted as a lack of faith in me, she's still putting my safety above hers. Nevertheless, I can't accept her heartfelt suggestion.
サヤの腕力だとさ、ヨウみたいな女の子なら楽にねじ伏せられるだろうけど、男を相手には厳しいと思うんだ。
Yeah, I was gonna say, you couldn't even, like, she couldn't help herself against the middle-aged guy who's, you know, probably not in the best health, so like a, you know, 20-something big guy, I don't think she'd have a chance against. With your strength, you might be able to overpower a girl like Yo, but I think it would be hard for you to take down a guy. The bitter memory of Saya's is still fresh in my mind. Saya falls silent for a moment, seeming to understand what I'm thinking, but then comes right back to stubbornly press her case.
でもね、あのおじさんも最初の不意打ちはうまくいったの。大抵の人間はね、作用を見たら力が抜けて動けなくなっちゃうんだよ。
My first attack went fine, though. Most humans go limp as soon as they see me.
病院だってそうだった。平気で話しかけてきたのって文則だけだよ。
It was the same in the hospital. You were the only one who could talk to me.
まあ、それも一理あるかもな。
I guess you have a point. I can't imagine it personally, but I suppose it's possible. Saya's appearance is shocking enough to make someone lose their nerve. Suzumi was able to gain the advantage because he had the same condition as me, which let him see Saya as a cute girl. Fear doesn't necessarily make people weaker, however. Depending on the situation, it can send someone into a berserk rage and make them harder to put down. In other words, such a tactic would be the same sort of gamble Saya's worried about.
じゃあさ、サヤ、こういうのはどうだろうか。
Alright, Saya, how about this? When I tell Saya the new plan that just popped into my head, her gloomy frown turns into a bright smile.
それめえやん。文則って頭いい。
That's perfect. You're so smart, Fuminori.
何もそこまで。
Oh, stop. It's not exactly a great plan, but I guess the fact it lessens the risk to me is enough to excite her. She's so easy to please, but that's part of what makes her so cute.
で、いつ頃来るの？コウジさん。
So when's Koji coming?
わからない。いずれ奴の方から電話があるだろう。
Ooh.
そしたらここに誘い出して仕留める。
Good thing I held off. It's a good thing I called Ryoko instead of him. He would have lured me right here. Or Koji, I should say. I don't know. He'll call sooner or later, and then I'll lure him here and finish him. Koji will come. I know that he won't leave us alone. We could just keep running now that we've started, but I want to eliminate Koji as soon as possible. Therefore, when he contacts me, I intend to meet with him unless it's an obvious trap.
せっかく人間一人分の肉が仕入れられるのに、ここだと腐らせちゃうね。ないし。
We're finally going to get more human meat. Too bad it's just going to rot without a refrigerator.
他の動物を誘う餌にできないか？野良猫とかカラスをおびき寄せてさ。
Why don't we use it to trap other animals? It could be bait for stray cats or crows.
それ危ないよ。万が一取り逃した時、よそに持っていかれて他人に見つかったら大騒ぎになるよ。
That's too dangerous. If an animal gets away with the meat, someone might find it and wonder where it came from. So now this is going to mean that they're going to be killing people even more because they can't even refrigerate the meat and make it last longer. So they're going to have to continuously be killing animals or people.
そっか。
Good point.
それもそうだ。
Humans are extremely dangerous, and their filthy, stinking bodies make me sick just by being nearby. Ironically, however, nothing tastes better than their meat. I truly regret having to abandon our well-stocked fridge.
まあ、この辺だと森にもいろいろと住んでるから、そんなに食事には困らないんじゃないかな。
The forest around here is full of animals. I don't think we'll have any trouble finding food.
3人分だよ。大丈夫かい？
We have 3 mouths to feed. Are you sure?
任せて。 これでもさや、狩りは得意なんだから。頑張っていっぱい捕まえてくるよ。
Leave it to me. I may not look it, but I'm a pretty good hunter. I'll be sure to keep us well fed.
そうか。じゃあ、今日からはサヤが一家の大黒柱だな。
Okay, looks like you're going to be the breadwinner of this family.
へへ。
Saya giggles happily at my praise. I find these childish qualities of her adorable.
今度はどのぐらいのんびりできるかな。
I wonder how long we'll be able to relax this time. Because of the casual way she says it, I almost miss the emptiness to which her question leads.
どのぐらいかな。
Yeah. Saya's right. This won't last forever. No matter how safe this hideout might seem, we'll have to abandon it eventually. The slightest mistake could put our life together in jeopardy, just like when I failed to silence Koji. Some dumb kids might decide this old ruin is a good place to test their courage, or this land might be targeted for new development. In order to be together with Saya, I have chosen to live apart from society. We will never find lasting peace in this world teeming with humans, not unless we can somehow escape from it.
長い旅だと思えばいいさ。
Think of it like going on a journey, just the two of us. I pull Saya into my arms and fold my hands around her slender shoulders, then whisper,
どうせ人生なんて旅みたいなものなんだ。永遠に変わらない場所なんてない。
Life is like a journey anyway. Nothing stays the same forever.
時の流れを見送るか、自分自身が流れていくか。
The
そ
only
れだけの違
difference
いだよ。
is whether time passes you by or sweeps you up into its flow.
そうだよね。
I guess you're right. Saya smiles softly, perhaps in resignation, perhaps in sadness. Either way, there is peace and contentment in her expression.
それでも一人ぼっちじゃないし。だからさやは寂しくなんかないよ。
But we'll be
み
together,
のりもそうだよね。
so I'm not lonely. You're not lonely either, are you?
ああ、
No. I have no regrets. As long as I can hold Saya in my arms, I will gladly pay any price.
それにね、
And besides, she adds brightly, trying to cheer me up,
いつかは私たちが人目を忍んで暮らさなくてもよくなる日がきっと来るよ。
one day we won't have
そ
to
れ
hide
は
anymore.
約束してあげるから。
I can promise you that. So either she's going to be able to make herself look like a human to other people, or she's going to turn the whole world into what Fuminori sees her like. It sounds like a fairy tale, but for some reason she seems absolutely certain.
それは明日かもしれないし、ずっと先のことかもしれない。
That day might be tomorrow, or it might be far off in the future.
いつ印が来るのか私にもわからないの。
It's my first time,
初めてのことだから。
so even I don't know when the sign will come.
ほんのちょっぴり怖いんだけどね。
I'm a little scared. I have no idea what Saya's prophetic words mean, but this isn't the first time she said it or done something mysterious. She's performed any number of miracles already, so she talks about a sign. So, assuming she's an alien, is that maybe like the rest of whatever she is coming down into the world and they're gonna change the world into what she wants? Or what they want? I still don't know what Saya is. I know she's not human. But what is she?
僕らにも希望があるのかい。
I thought like Ogai had made her, maybe created her in a lab, but I'm like, I still don't know. So there's hope for us too?
うん。
Yeah, she says with a cheerful nod.
きっとそれがさやが文則に送ってあげられる最後のプレゼント。
えお
さやの最初で最後の務め。
It will be my last present to you, Fuminori, my first and final duty. The hands of his watch move with agonizing slowness, as though counting down to the end of the world. In the hours since contacting Ryoko, Koji went back to his apartment, showered, changed clothes, and even had his first full meal in days. He wanted to take a nap, knowing he needed the rest, but no matter how hard he tried, sleep never came. Forcing himself to relax only made his nerves colder and sharper. With nothing else to do, he decides to wander the city until nightfall. Downtown Tokyo is bustling, surrounded by smiling pedestrians, bright lights, and windows decorated early for Christmas. He feels as if all the happiness in the world has been gathered in this very place. Koji takes it all in, burning it into his memory like it's the last thing he'll ever see. Well, maybe it will be. Oh, I just hope he doesn't do anything rash. Is the world so beautiful because of the horrors that lurk in its shadows? The glow of the city can no longer warm him. Perhaps that's why it seems so precious. Koji watches the city for hours. It feels unreachably distant, like reading the obituary of someone you loved long ago. His phone rings at 8 p.m. It's Ryoko. Their conversation is short. She hangs up as soon as they decide where to meet. And so ends Tono Koji's final night to peace. Ooh, okay. This is happening quickly. Ryoko arrives at the diner at 1 a.m., 1 hour later than agreed upon. She has a heavy-looking duffel bag under her arm. Koji doesn't feel like asking what the bulges represent.
すまんね。いろいろと準備に手間取った。
Sorry, I had a lot to get together. Ryoko doesn't sound at all apologetic, but Koji decides to just nod expressionlessly. Only a few tables are filled at this hour, like lonely islands in the midst of the vast restaurant. After sending the bleary-eyed waitress away with an order for 2 coffees, Koji and Ryoko are left all alone in the corner of the dining area.
で、調べ物は終わりましたか?
So, did you find what you were looking for? Koji asked bluntly while sipping dutifully from his 3rd cup of watery, tasteless coffee.
待たせただけの甲斐はあると思いたいね。何分確証を得るまでには至ってないんだが。
I'd like to think I didn't make you wait for nothing at least, though I'm still not sure of anything.
文則も相当じれてると思います。こちらから連絡すると言ったきり、丸1日放置してますからね。
I think Fuminori is under a lot of stress. I left him hanging for a day since I told him I'd call.
そんなにも彼は君との接触を意識してるのか?
Do you really think you have him on edge?
サヤっていう名前には露骨なほど反応してました。
His reaction to the name Saya was very clear. In the silence that follows, Koji tries to soothe his parched throat with another mouthful of weak coffee.
そうか。やはりサヤなのか。
I see, Ryoko mutters. So it is Saya. It's obvious her grimace isn't for the coffee.
今なら田んぼ先生はもう答えを知ってるんですね。サヤというのが何なのか。
You know, don't you? Koji asks, his tone almost confrontational. You know what this Saya is. Ryoko tries to ignore Koji's question by nursing her coffee, but that only works until the cup is empty. Staring at the brown stain at the bottom of her cup, Ryoko says, her voice hard and flat.
君は私の忠告を無視した愚か者なわけだが。
You were foolish enough to ignore my warning once.
もう一度だけ証拠りもなく言わせてほしい。殿君、君は手を引いて全てを忘れるべきだ。
But I'm just as stubborn as you, so I'm going to say this one more time. Go home, Tono, and forget everything that's happened.
証拠りもないですね。
You really are stubborn, Koji replies, smiling bitterly instead of glaring at her like he did before.
俺がまだ先生や文則とは境界線を挟んだ反対側にいるとでも?
Are you saying I still haven't crossed the line separating me from you and Fuminori?
君はまだ一番致命的なものまでは見ていない。
You still haven't seen the most damning part of all this.
君にとってこの事件は無二の親友がいきなり正気を失ってに目覚めたっていうただそれだけの内容なんだろ?
As far as you're concerned, Ryoko continues with a disparaging smirk, your best friend in the whole world suddenly went crazy and became a cannibal. That's all this thing is to you, isn't it? That's all? The things Fuminori has done are so horrifying that Koji's only recourse, his only hope of coping, is to kill the man who was once his friend. Yet despite that, Ryoko makes this nightmare sound like just the beginning. Koji still doesn't understand where her morbid cynicism comes from, nor does he want to.
それだけじゃないとしたら、残りは先生の妄想なんじゃないですか?
You say there's something more, but aren't you just imagining it?
そう思えるならまだ君の傷は浅いってことさ。
See, that's how I know your wounds are still shallow. Her brusque tone says she doesn't care whether or not Koji is satisfied with her explanation.
今ならまだ時間が君の傷を癒してくれるだろう。君は最後の一線を踏み越えていない。
If you back out now, they'll probably heal given time. You haven't crossed the final line yet. Koji considers Ryoko's words calmly without letting himself get emotional like before. The final line. True, Fuminori is somewhere beyond that. Although Koji has gone far enough to be willing to kill Fuminori, he has no intention of eating his enemy's flesh once he's dead. That, at least, still separates the two. And what about Ryoko, who has treated Koji like an ignorant fool ever since she saved him from the well? How close is she to Fuminori?
先生の傷は俺よりも深いと。
You're saying your wounds are deeper than mine? In response to Koji's biting question, Ryoko's mocking smile turns inward.
この銃はね、実家の父のものなんだ。
This gun was my father's, you know. Ryoko pats one of her duffel bag's bulges.
こいつがロッカーから消えたせいで、父は責任を問われて地元の猟友会から除名させられた。
His hunting club kicked him out when it disappeared from his locker.
申し訳ないと思ってるよ。私は両親にとっては自慢の娘なんだ。それが金庫の銃を盗み出すなんて想像もしてないだろう。
I feel bad about that. My parents were always proud of me. They probably never even suspected that I was the one who took it.
そうするだけの必要が先生にはあったと。
So you had a good reason for taking it?
いいや、全然。
No, not at all. Her quick denial isn't what Koji was expecting.
その頃にはもう王外のことは一見落着していた。少なくとも私はそう思っていた。
At the time, the Ogai mess had already ended. At least that's what I thought.
奴は姿を消したきり、もう二度と私の前には現れないだろうと安心してた。
He'd vanished without a trace, and I was sure I'd never see him again.
この銃で何かを撃とうとか、殺そうとか、そういう必要があったわけじゃない。
I didn't steal this gun because I needed to shoot someone.
じゃあなぜ？
Then why?
眠れなかったんだよ。ただそれだけ。
Because I couldn't sleep, that's all. Ryoko pauses, perhaps needing time to decide how best to explain.
それまではベッドサイドにナタを隠しておいたんだ。夜一人で部屋にいるのが耐えられなくてね。
Until then, she continues, choosing her words carefully. I was sleeping with a machete next to my bed. I couldn't stand being alone at night, you see.
どんなに世界が底抜けにめちゃくちゃになっていこうと、悲鳴を上げて逃げ回る以外の選択肢が自分にはあるんだって。
I needed to know that no matter what horrors the world might hold, I still had some power against the madness.
そう納得させるためにはね、部屋の中に何か一つ頼りになる武器を置いておきたかった。
I needed a weapon I could count on. Koji doesn't know what to say. He's amazed, impressed even, that someone with such a serious case of delusional paranoia could function as one of T University's top doctors.
でも、それじゃ大した効き目はなかった。悪夢は日ごとにひどくなっていく一方で、
It didn't work though. My nightmares kept on getting worse.
安眠するにはナタじゃまだ足りなかったんだ。それで父の銃を盗んできた。
A machete just wasn't enough to let me sleep peacefully. That's when I stole my father's gun.
こんな風に重心を詰めるとね、散弾がもっと広範囲に飛び散るようになって殺傷力が増すんだそうだ。
By cutting the barrel down like this, the shot spreads over a wider area and causes more damage.
アメリカでも重罪になる改造なんだとさ。私はそれをクローゼットの奥に突っ込んで、それでようやく眠れるようになったよ。
I hear that even in America, carrying a sawed-off shotgun is a crime. But with this gun sitting in the back of my closet, I was finally able to sleep.
3日に一晩ぐらいはね。
One night out of 3, that is. Ooh, she looks so... Yeah, I was like, I don't know what that expression is. At this point, Ryoko seems to have gotten everything off her chest. Smiling like someone who just finished a hard job, she adds.
銃はいいよ、本当に。
A gun's a great thing to have, you know. It really is.
相手に向かってぶっ放すもよし、それでダメなら、自分の口に突っ込んで引き金を引くっていう選択肢もある。
You can use it to blow your enemies away, and if that doesn't work, you can always stick it in your mouth and pull the trigger. I wonder if that's going to be foreshadowing for something to come later.
先生は専門家の治療を受けるべきです。
Doctor, you need help.
端的な感想ありがとう。でもね、君だって他人事じゃなくなるよ。これ以上先に進むんならね。
Thanks for the honest opinion. You won't be able to talk like that for much longer, though. Not if you go any further. Koji is already doubtful meeting with Ryoko was the right thing to do. The one thing he and Ryoko have in common is an unwillingness to leave Fuminori to the proper authorities. Fuminori not only killed Koji's lover and friend, but even went so far as to defile their corpses. Koji isn't about to give him the chance to get off on an insanity plea. No matter what crimes he must commit, Koji will end Fuminori with his own two hands. If he doesn't, he knows he will never sleep again. It helps to have a partner in crime, but only when the partner doesn't cause trouble. Ryoko talks big about exposing Ogai's secrets, but she might just have a head full of delusions. If so, Koji needs to rethink this whole thing.
この先すべてを先生に任せるというのなら、先生のこと信用させてください。
If you're telling me to leave this to you, Koji says with unflappable determination, then please give me some reason to trust you.
先生をそこまで追い詰めるほどのものが、オーガイっていう男にあったという証拠。彼が何をしでかしたのか、すべて俺に見せてください。
Prove to me there's a reason for you to be so obsessed with Ogai. Show me what he did.
そこまで言うかね、まったく。
So you're determined to go all the way? Oh well. Ryoko smirks and shakes her head ruefully, but puts up no further resistance. She pulls a stack of papers from her bag and hands it to Koji. The loose-leaf sheets are bound with string.
一行読んだら続きは次のページの同じ行だ。まあ触りだけでも読んでみるといい。
After you read one line, it continues on the same line of the next page. Anyway, just skim it. As directed, Koji looks through the handwritten pages and gives up after less than 3 minutes.
怪奇 SF の草稿か何かですか。罪のない悪ふざけですね。彼にはこんな子供っぽい趣味があったわけだ。
Is this a draft for a horror novel or something? I didn't think Ogai had such childish hobbies. Koji deliberately scoffs at the document, doing everything he can to show contempt for what he just read. At the same time, he tries desperately not to remember the mountain of bones in Ogai's bathtub and the unidentifiable smell permeating Fuminori's house.
1年前、オーガイがうちの大学に持ってきた資料も、その文章と同じぐらい突拍子もないものだった。
Specimens that Ogai brought to the hospital 1 year ago were just as unbelievable, Ryoko says, coldly ignoring Koji's disdain.
奴は大学の機材を無断で使って、こっそり検査をしようとしたらしい。
Apparently, he continued his research in secret, using our supplies without permission.
だがドジを踏んで露見した。そこから先はもう大騒ぎでね。
But he made a mistake and was discovered. That's when things got crazy.
オーガイが使おうとした機材から察するに、奴はそいつを P3 レベルのバイオハザードとして取り扱うつもりだったらしい。
Judging by the equipment he was trying to use, he meant to treat his experiment as a P3 level biohazard.
その程度の用心で十分だったのかどうかも知れたもんじゃないんだが。
To be honest, even that might not have been sufficient for what he was dealing with.
近隣の住民を退去させるべきだったんだが、まあそこは偉い人たちが偉い人なりに頑張って全部なかったことにしてくれたよ。
We should have evacuated the nearby civilians, but the big shots did their thing and made the whole mess disappear.
その代わり私たちはキャンバス中のネズミを一匹残らず駆除する羽目になった。ネズミとかつてネズミだった何かをね。
In exchange, we were left with the task of exterminating every single rat on campus, including the things that used to be rats. At their first meeting, Ryoko brushed Koji off when he asked about Ogai Masahiko. Now, however, she's telling the whole story. Her voice is flat and emotionless as a machine's.
事の究明には結局皆が匙を投げた。
In the end, everyone gave up trying to explain what happened.
オーガイが持ち込んだ資料がどういう起源のものなのか、誰にも突き止めることはできなかった。
No one could figure out where his materials had come from or what they were.
まあ結局みんな賢明だったわけだ。
In retrospect, they did the wise thing.
理性は理性、ざれ言はざれ言。そういう線引きを危うくしないで済む程度ってもんを心得ていた。
They knew how to keep the line between reality and fantasy where it should be.
でもあいにく、当時の私はそこまで賢明じゃなかった。
I, unfortunately, was not so wise. Ryoko pauses for a moment, then grins with self-disdain so maniacal it strikes Koji like a blow.
あれこれ探って暴き出して、私はオーガイが何をしていたのか知った。
I searched everywhere for Ogai, flushed him out, and finally learned what he'd been doing.
彼が関わっていた連中や彼をそそのかした連中も突き止めた。
I found the people he'd been dealing with and who encouraged him to perform his experiments.
ナタと添い寝するようになったのはその頃からだ。
That's when I started sleeping with a machete.
この世の理性ってものがどんなにタガの緩んだ穴だらけの頼りない代物なのか理解するようになったのはね。
I'd learned just how absurd, how hollow, how worthless our precious reason is. As though fleeing from the quiet insanity he keeps glimpsing into Ryoko, Koji finds himself paging through the loose leaf in his hands. He reads a line at random. The organism's flesh is not fibrous, but reticulated. Put simply, it is an extremely tough substance that expands and contracts not in one direction, but in all directions. This means that slashing or piercing damage has very little effect. Since the flesh can contract in any direction freely, any wound will be sealed instantly. So she is not going to be easy to take down. It's nonsense. What else can it be? If he lets himself believe it, then everything else, all the logical rules that define the world will be rendered meaningless.
じゃあ先生は信じるんですね。この内容を。
Do you believe what's in this, Doctor?
疑う理由なんてとっくの昔に見失ったからね。
I lost any reason to doubt it a long time ago. Ryoko reaches into her duffel bag again, this time removing a stainless steel thermos that looks to hold about 500 cc's of liquid.
こいつが鞘を倒す切り札だ。調達するのに手間取ったが、多分こいつは敵面に効く。
This is the secret weapon that will let us defeat Saya. It was a pain to get, but it should work like a charm.
ついていけません。
I can't take this anymore, Koji snaps, no longer able to disguise his frustration.
サヤが何だろうともうどうでもいいです。俺は文則を終わらせることができればそれでいい。あなたには任せておけません。
I don't care what Saya is. All I care about is killing Fuminori. I can't leave this to you. Dude, maybe, like, I know it's not very busy in here, but maybe don't yell that out loud to people.
そうか。
I see. Now that she's given up on persuading him, her assent is swift and cold. At this moment, Koji's fate has likely ceased to matter to her.
いいだろう。君は先坂文則を仕留めるために全力を尽くすといい。
Damn, she's so cold. I mean,
私もその気に乗じさせてもらうとする。
she tried to warn him. Alright then, you do everything you can to take Sakisaka down. I'll take advantage of the opening you create. She's like, I don't care if you live or die. I'm here to take out Saya.
君の邪魔はしないし、君が仕損じた時にはきっちりと私が帳尻を合わせてやる。
I won't get in your way, and I'll even take care of things when you screw up. Despite the determination in her voice, Koji can't bring himself to trust this paranoid doctor completely.
あなたの持ち合わせている理由で文則を殺せるんですか？
Do you have a reason to kill Fuminori?
潔癖症なんだよ、私は。ああやって人の世界の拉致外に隠れ住んでいるような奴らが我慢ならない。
I like things neat and tidy. I can't stand people like him who lurk outside of the world.
奴らは寝室のゴキブリだ。枕元でカサコサ這い回る音を無視して眠れるか？
They're like cockroaches in your bedroom. Can you sleep with them scuttling underneath your pillow?
見つけ次第殺して駆逐する。そうせずにはいられない。私の精神衛生上の問題だ。
The moment I find one, I kill it and stamp out all trace of its existence. I have to, for the sake of my mental well-being. Her reasons are similar to Koji's own. He doesn't want to bring a murderer to justice, nor does he want revenge for Omi and Yo. If he did, he could have just left everything to the police. The reason he can't is that their villain is Fuminori. The man he believed was his friend has turned his whole world upside down. Everything and everyone with a part in this madness is to blame, and that includes himself for allowing the betrayal. His self-loathing, his desire to destroy it is what's keeping him on his feet.
さあ、それじゃあチェックメイトに駒を進めよ
Ooh,
う。
okay, this is happening.
先坂君を呼び出すといい。
Okay, let's move in for the checkmate. Go ahead and call Sakisaka out. Koji nods, pulls out his cell phone and calls his friend for what will probably be the last time. Damn, alright. This is kind of exciting. The call goes through quickly. Fuminori must have been waiting for it.
待たせたな、文則。こっちの準備は整った。
Sorry to keep you waiting, Fuminori. I finished my preparations.
コージ、今どこにいる？
Koji, where are you? Fuminori must have been quite anxious to hear from Koji. His voice is hard and completely emotionless.
お前のすぐ背後とでも言っておこうか。
Let's just say I'm right behind you. Koji can't help but smile at Fuminori's disappointment. Perhaps Ryoko's maniacal sadism has rubbed off on him.
で、筑波を解放する決心はついたのか？
Well, have you decided to let Tsukuba go?
ああ、背に腹は変えられない。
Yeah, I suppose I have no choice. He's lying, Koji thinks, remembering the contents of Fuminori's refrigerator. Just what part of Yo did you eat, huh? Did you carve that poor girl up like a pig?
お前は集めた資料の全てを証拠ともども持ってこい。その内容を見て納得できたら、僕らはYoを引き渡す。
Bring your evidence along with all the files you've gathered. When I'm satisfied they're the real thing, I'll hand Yo over.
いいだろう。場所は？
Fine. Where?
まずは王線の Y 駅まで来い。そこでお前が一人なのを確認してから、詳しい場所を教える。
First, come to the Y station on the O line. When I'm sure you're alone, I'll tell you the exact location.
念の言った話だな。
You're being awfully careful.
妙な細工はなしだ。45分以内に来い。
No tricks. You have 45 minutes. Fuminori hangs up without waiting for Koji's response.
俺が単独なのを確認するまで、居場所は教えないつもりみたいです。
He won't tell me his location until he's sure I'm alone.
ただの医大生にしちゃ心得てるな。感心だ。
Not bad for a medical student. I'm impressed. Ryoko's praise sounds serious, drawing a glare from Koji.
私の車はここに置いていこう。トノ君、君の車のトランクに人一人が入る隙間はあるかい？
We'll leave my car here. Is your trunk big enough for me to fit inside?
大丈夫ですが。正気ですか？映画の見過ぎですよ。
Yeah, but are you serious? You've seen too many movies.
そんじょそこいらの映画よりは危険な冒険なんだよ、これは。
This adventure is more dangerous than anything you've seen in a movie. With those bold words, Ryoko grabs her duffel bag and rises from her seat.
で、この店を待ち合わせに選んだのは君だったな。
Weren't you the one who chose to meet here?
そうですが、何か？
Yeah, why?
コーヒーの責任を取れ。
Take responsibility for the coffee, she says, and tosses him the check. Alright guys, that will wrap it up for this episode. I am so pumped. I am so anxious to see, how this confrontation is going to go. Who's going to make it out on top, Fuminori or Saya? Koji and Ryoko, I think you guys know what side I lean on to who I want to win. But yeah, it seems like this might be coming to a close soon. I'm not sure how much of this is left, but I'm super hyped to see what's going to happen. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for the next one. Till next time, bye guys. Special thanks to my top tier patrons: Namara Kito, Asborn Kennedy, Sparky, Mad Goldsmith, Icognito, Simon Rex, and Harry Gazif.